Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining the 2021 Summer Readiness Update Call. This is Christina Osborne with ISO Stakeholder Affairs. I'm going to be facilitating the meeting. And here to present the topics, we have Stacey Crowley, who is the Vice President of External and Customer Affairs, Mark Rossletter, Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Neil Miller, Vice President of Infrastructure and Operations Planning, Anna McKenna, who is the Interim Head of Market Policy and Performance, and Joanne Serena, who is Executive Director of Customer Service and Stakeholder Affairs. Also from the ISO on the speaker line, we have Delphine Ho and Guillermo Bautista Alderete. For the agenda, Stacey's going to start us off by providing a brief overview of the new Summer Readiness webpage that we launched early last week. Mark is going to discuss the roadmap for finalizing the root cause analysis. Anna McKenna will provide updates on the market rules and process changes. Neil is going to discuss resource needs for next summer. Then Stacey will talk about or provide an update on DR crediting. And then finally, Joanne Serena is going to go over the next steps for this effort. We are planning to pause for questions, and we will provide instructions for how to raise your hand at that time. So I did post a presentation. We did out on the miscellaneous stakeholder meetings webpage as well as the new Summer Readiness webpage. We did make some updates just before this meeting, so I'm planning to post an updated version shortly after this call ends. So you'll find it out on the page by end of today. We are recording the meeting. We do make those recordings available to stakeholders. The recording, once we receive it from ISO, I will post the file on the miscellaneous stakeholder meeting page as well as the Summer Readiness page. So look for that probably by the end of this week. So with that, I'll turn it over to our first speaker, Stacey Crowley.
Thank you, Christina, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining this call. So I wanted to provide just a quick overview of the what we're calling the 2021 Summer Readiness webpage on our website. We really wanted to make it easy for folks to find information about the activities surrounding both the analysis of the August and September heat events as well as activities and next steps to help mitigate impacts for next summer. So we created a dedicated web page to information so that you can go there and find all of those resources. So as you all may know, Elliot and the rest of us at the ISO have pledged to coordinate closely with the governor's office, the legislature, the state agencies, and stakeholders to make sure that we do deliver on the action items from the joint preliminary root cause analysis. And so this page provides access to the data and the reports related to the root cause analysis as well as, like I said, other initiatives. So there we have posted things like the preliminary root cause analysis. We will also post the final analysis when that is completed, which is expected before the end of this year. We posted things like the Department of Market Monitoring report on the events of August and September, as well as a link to the California Assembly Committee on Utilities and Energy hearing that had the ISO as well as the CPUC and CEC discussing those events. We will include new initiatives. We have one new initiative started on penalty prices and scheduling priorities. That initiative is posted there as well as on our stakeholder webpage. And we post public meetings or other activities such as the information for today's call, as Christina mentioned. We also include there information on our Flex Alerts, which is an important tool that we use during things, events like the August and September heat waves. And of course, we always encourage folks to follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our daily briefings where you can find up-to-date information on any new information that we've got for you. We have also linked to the CPUC's Summer Reliability webpage for information and links on the activities that they're working on. So that is an overview of the web page. As I said, it's an evolving web page. We will add things as we need to, and really wanted to make it a one-stop shop for stakeholders to find information. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacey. Next we have Mark.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And again, I want to reinforce what Stacy just said, that this is a important initiative, and it's a focused initiative to really target preparedness for 2021. And I say that because I realize that there are many things that were already started before 2021 in terms of policy initiatives. Not all of those are going to be put on this webpage, but to the extent there is a carve-out of things that we're doing specifically related to preparation for 2021 summer, they may end up on this webpage, and so that there's a one-stop shop of those things that we're doing specifically for preparedness for summer 2021. So with that in mind, I want to kind of move on to say that the first thing that we want to do as we prepare for 2021 is kind of complete and finish off our review of what happened in the events of 2020 summer. And in that regard, we will be planning on finishing up and finalizing the root cause analysis. There are some things that we had identified that we could not complete earlier, specific around some additional analysis around demand response, as well as further review of scheduling practices to understand and learn from if there's anything that we can do to improve upon some of those scheduling practices. There are also some other, we identified some graphs that we need to update or correct, and that basically is what we're doing to finalize the root cause analysis from the preliminary root cause analysis. We are intending to get this finalization complete and published before the end of the year, and we believe that we are on course to do that. So that's kind of finishing up the root cause analysis, and then from there, we will be leading to those things that we are doing proactively in preparation for 2021. Again, leveraging what we've learned from the root cause analysis and the recommendations from there. So with that, I don't know if I want to take any questions or turn it over to Anna on the next item.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll just hold off on questions till the end. So we'll go ahead and go to Anna's update.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Anna McKenna, and I'm going to go through a series of topics and share with you some of our potential next steps in some of these areas. If we can go to the next slide, please. So there's been a lot of discussion. There was a lot of discussion in the root cause analysis, as well as you've probably heard in multiple forums, some issues that we are looking to address or potentially address as we get ready for next summer. So there's about 4 areas of interest I thought we'd mention today to sort of give you a little bit of, sort of a roadmap, if you wish, of some of the things to expect as we get ready for next summer in the area of potential market rule changes or process changes that we may have to do to make sure we're ready to go to deal with any heat events like we experienced this past summer. So one area is penalty prices and scheduling priorities. We had a deep dive into our parameters a couple of weeks ago where Guillermo Bautista, he went through, and his team went through a very deep description of how the market parameters work and how the scheduling priorities work. After that workshop, we actually felt like we covered quite a bit of territory in our first workshop, and we issued sort of requested some comments from participants. And based on the input that we're going to get from participants with regards to how they felt with the material that was covered and if any additional material needs to be covered, we're going to make some decisions based on the input that we get as to what our next steps will be. So we're looking at if there are any changes we would be making to the management of the expert priorities or parameters themselves, that we would initiate a stakeholder process after that if that was what should come out of this process. On the other hand, if we needed more sort of educational, deep dive type of workshops, we'll focus on that for next steps. So that's kind of where we're at with that effort. I guess the best thing is to look. We will announce on this webpage and on our stakeholder. If there is a stakeholder initiative, it will get listed as a stakeholder initiative on the official stakeholder page as well. But we will announce here in this webpage what our next steps are in this area. Another area of interest that is very important to us is the management of storage resources next summer. We have a significant amount of new resources coming in next year, storage resources, and our goal is to make sure that the storage providers as well as the utilities all understand how we're going to operate the system to ensure that these resources are a key reliability resource for us, and that they meet the challenging needs that we experience during that peak demand periods. And we have developed over the past few years, we've developed a lot of enhancements for participation of storage resources. We have some new enhancements coming later in 2021 on the state of charge, on managing the state of charge for storage resources. But we want to make sure that for the summertime, if there's any procedural enhancements we have to make for managing the new entry of resources, that we'll be prepared to do that. And we'll share that information, with the public. Again, we'll have something on this webpage if there's documentation there that needs to be considered. And we'll, in this vein as well, as we continue to get ready for the entry of new resources, we are also going to be reaching out to UDCs as well as distributed energy resources as to make sure they understand what's going on. So, like I was saying, this webpage will house and have a link to whatever activities happen in that space. Another area of interest that caught a lot of attention this past summer during the events was whether or not our prices were appropriately reflecting shortages on the system. And we have committed to take on a longer-term initiative to review scarcity pricing provisions and possible enhancements in those areas. But it's unrealistic for us to think that we're going to get a full-blown opportunity to do like a good job on really looking at our scarcity pricing and whether enhancements need to be made. So what we want to do in the short term is we're looking at whether there are possible changes to our processes and and maybe even some minor market rule changes to reflect the emergency actions we take when the system is stressed and there are shortages on the system. So if we can do anything between now and next summer, we definitely want to have those process enhancements in place, and then that hopefully that will also help for next summer. But like I said, the longer term, scarcity pricing type of initiative, of course, that will take a little more time. So we're not suggesting that it would be done by next summer. Again, this is the page to look at for this kind of activity and this subject area. The last area I wanted to touch on is system market power mitigation. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because there's an interplay between pricing and shortage conditions and then the potential to exercise market power. We noticed over this past summer, during the heat events, that, we didn't feel like we had an urgent case study to take and push for applying system market power mitigation next summer. However, we really haven't received the full scope of data really as to how this summer's markets perform. So we're still continuing to look at whatever data will come out of analysis from the performance over this past summer. Particularly, we're looking to the Department of Market Monitoring's quarterly reports to see if there's any indication that we should move forth with the system market power proposal. Just as a little background, we've been working on our system market power proposal for the past year, and we actually came up with a pretty good, proposal. We slowed down a little bit because we really want to make sure that we don't, through the adoption of system market power mitigation, overlook the need to have sufficient price signals to incentivize the needed supply on our system, because, of course, if we don't, that could be a problem. So then with that, all I'm going to suggest is that, keep an eye. We will announce our next efforts. We withdrew that from going to the board in December, and we will continue, as I said, we'll send more information as we make our look at data as it comes out. So those are the 4 areas I wanted to cover, and I think we're going to move on to the next area and take questions at the end. So I'll turn it over to Neil.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. So it's Neil here. There were a few things I wanted to alert people to coming out of the review of summer resource needs. In particular, last Monday, the ISO submitted a proposal into the CPUC's summer of 2021 emergency rulemaking proceeding, a proposal specifically designed to address electric reliability service in the event of an extreme weather event in the summer of 2021. Well, the ISO staff have been working on more extensive changes to the RA program to better address these issues more completely. In the long run, we do recognize those changes wouldn't be in place for next summer. So as an interim measure, the ISO's proposal is twofold. First, to increase the planning reserve margin from 15 to 20%, and secondly, that reserve margin be applied both to the gross peak as well as to the critical hour after peak when the solar production has largely dropped off. And we would be looking to apply this through the months from June through October for 2021. The increase in the planning reserve margin is really necessary to account primarily for higher forced outage rates that have been identified in prior ISO studies, as well as to accommodate continue to accommodate load forecast variations above the 1 and 2 base forecast that's used for determining RA requirements. This would also allow us to continue to meet contingency reserve requirements. Now, in that analysis, which was based on that we've submitted to the CPUC, it did look primarily at the situation considering all internal resources and in considering average contracted imports. We identified some pretty hefty margins or gaps that ranged from 450 megawatts all the way up to 3,300 megawatts for the period from July through September 2021. Those numbers, though, are based on average contracted imports. Now, with that as the background, we, of course, are strongly recommending that any opportunities to contract with existing resources or imports or to develop other capacity mechanisms, such as demand response, be pursued as expeditiously as possible. So those are just the key points I wanted to highlight on that submission, and of course that will work its way through the CPUC process. Thank you.
Okay. Stacey's going to provide an update on the ER crediting. Stacey?
Thanks, Christina. Just a quick overview of this particular issue. The ISO had been working with stakeholders to address how to operationalize demand response resources with slow response times so they can satisfy local reliability requirements. At the time we were doing that, it became clear that we needed to review how to deal with RA credits for capacity not shown on the RA plans. So we had proposed PRR 1280 to revise our business practice manuals to state that when reviewing RA plans for compliance, that the ISO accepts the LRA provided credits against compliance obligations for the LRA's jurisdictional LSEs, provided the credits net to zero. So this PRR resulted in several entities appealing that proposal, and so the appeals committee met last week to discuss PRR 1280, and we are planning to make a decision by tomorrow, December 9th, and we'll post that decision and put that out in a market notice. So that is the status on PRR 1280.
Thank you, Stacey. All right, Joanne.
Great. Thanks, Christina. Good afternoon, everyone. Before we open it up for some Q&A, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining us on today's call and thank our speakers for covering today's topics and giving us a brief update. In terms of next steps, I would like to highlight a few things. As Mark mentioned, we will be publishing the final root cause analysis report at the end of this month. You'll be able to find that on the summer readiness page that Stacy just talked about. We also just today posted the Summer 2021 Reliability Monthly Report. This is a monthly status report that covers the actions we are taking that you heard about today, but also actions being taken by the CPUC and the CEC. The monthly report provides some details on the topics that we mentioned today, as well as other topics. And so we'll be providing you a link to that report as well, but you'll easily be able to find it under the resources section on the summer readiness page. So today's call, I know it's a brief call, but this is the first of a planned monthly call that we are planning to host to provide everyone with updates on the latest summer readiness activities. So each month we will likely cover different topics depending on progress in various efforts in various areas. This meeting is intended to provide you with a high-level update, and as Mark mentioned, there are other meetings and forums where a more in-depth conversation will take place on special topics, which I encourage you to participate in, and we'll also post those on the Summer Readiness page. In terms of if you've got questions after this call, please email us at the ISO Stakeholders Affairs mailbox, and we'll field any post-call questions there. So I think with that, I think the team is ready to answer some questions. So I'll turn it back over to you, Christina.
Okay, great. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand by pressing #2. We just ask that you start by introducing yourself. So Janelle, let me know if anybody enters the queue.
Yes, we do have one question in the queue. And a couple actually coming in. So this was the first caller. Caller, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, Dan Williams from Customized Energy Solutions. I think just two hopefully quick questions for probably for Anna. First, on the DMM August-September event report that came out, there's a lot of really good information in there, and I'm just curious if the CAISO's worked with DMM maybe to schedule a time to review the findings in that, or if you have an idea of when we might have an opportunity to kind of sort through that with DMM.
Well, I don't know if DMM's taking, this is Anna, I don't know if they're doing any public discussion of their report. If that's what you're asking, we could look into that. I don't have that information at hand. But we have talked to DMM about their report, and you're right, there's a lot of very good, useful information there, and we're looking at that. And we'll be working with DMM, as we look into these issues more deeply over the next few months. But, I don't know, Dan, whether we have whether they have announced any particular public forums. I think we can take that back and see whether there is anything going on.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it would just get wrapped into their quarterly report rundown, or if maybe come up to MPTF level or something. But yeah, it would be great to get an opportunity to discuss some of the findings in there. And then the second question is just, I think at the last board meeting, and then in some of the comments that have come in on the 2021 annual plan and roadmap, some of the BIM entities have requested to review the resource efficiency evaluation performance during the August-September events. And I was just curious, is that something that is getting picked up in the root cause analysis potentially, or has the CAISO talked about having a kind of home or a forum for looking into that at this point?
This is Mark Rothbitter. We are having some discussions around the how the resource efficiency test works. We found that generally speaking, we found that it's working the way it was intended. The question, I think, is trying to get a better understanding of knowing how it works under stress conditions. Is there anything that would follow up from recommendations of changing it. And I think as we have further internal and discussions around how it worked and look for if there's anything that we would change, we would certainly, as we recommend changes, we'd bring it up to the public forum, and it would be on this web page as well if there was something that we would recommend for change. At this point, we have not identified anything specific to change, but if there was, we would highlight it here.
Okay, so if there's something that, I just say more generally, if there's something that is maybe a PRR, BPM type of a change, but it's related to 2021 readiness, then that kind of stuff will end up posted on this site to kind of gather more attention. Is that correct?
Yes, we would intend to do that.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Great. Are there any other questions you'd like me to get out?
Yes. Moving on to the next caller. Caller, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hello, this is Rayanne Quadro on behalf of EDF Renewables. I just wanted to express appreciation for the monthly report. We're really looking forward to seeing that, and we think that that's a really great way to maintain that communication on an ongoing basis between the CAISO and the stakeholders. And I'm wondering if any additional granularity can be provided on this call today as to what that monthly report contains.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the monthly report that was just posted? It's just mainly, the details would be mainly following the recommendations from the root cause analysis and progress in the regards to addressing the recommendations.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, and moving on to the next caller. Caller, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, ISO team. Tony Braun on behalf of the California Municipal Utilities Association. Just wanted to ask a follow-up question to some of the comments that Neil made with respect to the positions in the emergency preparedness docket at the PUC. Has the ISO given any thought, or is it planning to potentially consider changes to the default PRM provisions in Section 40 of the tariff to go along with the positions of taking the PUC, or just haven't gotten quite that far yet in the thinking process? Thank you.
It's Neil. As I mentioned, that's a longer-term issue that I think would need to be looked at. It's not off the table, but at this point, we haven't come to a position on that for this summer. The key point that we needed to get out, though, was the clear requirement to raise the overall level for resources and to get the focus shifted to the critical hour that isn't necessarily the peak load.
Thank you, Neil.
Okay, moving on to the next two questions. Next caller. Caller, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yes, this is Tom Popick from the Foundation for Resilient Societies. Thank you for taking my question. So my question is, what is Cal ISO doing to address large generators bidding into and clearing the day-ahead market and then declaring a forced outage at the evening load peak? When we looked at the forced outage data, which Cal ISO released, and thank you so much for releasing that data, what we saw on August 14th was 3 large generators declaring forced outages within the time period of late afternoon to early evening. And the forced outages were just a few hours long each. And so those plants came back online after the load peak. And so my additional question is, what level of penalties could disincent this behavior? It just seems like odd behavior. Is this the kind of thing that normally happens during evening load peaks? Thank you.
This is Mark Rothiter. I'm not going to get into specific resource by resource, but I think there is a mix of observations there. Some of those were outages that were previous outages, and they were finishing up or extended from a previous work. Some of those were forced outages due to equipment. And I will highlight that the Department of Market Monitoring report did not identify any kind of behavior that they were concerned about was any kind of market manipulation. I will say that there were resources that we were trying to get on for the 14th evening peak. Some of those were in progress. Some of those came on just after the peak events that were available for the 15th. I think as part of our process, we can't prevent outages from occurring on equipment that cause resources to go out, but certainly when it's related to a planned outage, we can certainly plan those outages in a way that don't impact the system. And we are reviewing the outages and the planned outages and the consequences of not having a replacement as part of our resource adequacy enhancements. So I think there are various forums that will be discussing those things, but the reality is resources do have outages, and we have to be prepared for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to the next caller. Caller, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Paul Nelson on behalf of CLICA. Can people hear me okay?
Hi, Paul. We hear you.
Hi. I have two questions. The first is the final root cause report going to cover the performance of storage battery resources during the stage emergencies? Do I need to repeat my question?
Sorry, this is Mark. I was on mute. Sorry. There is some information already about some observations around batteries. We'll review whether there's anything more to be said or about that. But I think I highlight Anna's points that we really need to look forward to say, how are we going to be able to manage the increased storage resources to make sure that on these stress days, the availability of their capability is targeted for those 3 to 4 hours in the evening under the stress conditions.
Yeah, because the reason I bring this up is when I looked at the battery data on the KISA's website during this stage 3 and stage 2, it was actually charging during stage emergencies, which really puzzled me. So I think that would be very interesting to look at, especially if we're going to have more batteries online next year. The next question I have was, you talked about the recommendation for the CPUC to increase their planning reserve margin, and my question is what sort of outreach are you doing to non-CPUC jurisdictional regulatory authorities? And now I'm a bit puzzled because in the response to Tony Braun, who sort of asked a somewhat similar question, the response was any changes to the PRM or default PRM was a longer-term issue. So now I'm kind of struggling where for some entities it's a long-term issue, but for CPUC jurisdictional you want it for 2020. It seems to be mixed message.
This is Anna. I'm sorry. Go on, Neil. Do you want to?
No, sorry, Anna. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to address because I think there's some confusion. I think, when we talk about increasing, and I think that, Tony was asking with regards to the default PRM in our tariff right now in the interim, given that we are asking the PUC to increase the PRM next summer for those targeted months. The PUC initiated this initiative, and so what we did is we made sure that we came into the initiative prepared to educate the process as best as we could. And the PRM itself, and the proposal we have itself, is not the full-blown proposal for solving these issues in the long run. And so if there was a change in our RA construct, that would require some additional change, and of course that would require, more coordination. And I think that's what we were, Neil was suggesting. I don't think there was a suggestion that, and also we haven't yet thought about or really made a decision about increasing the default PRM for next summer, if that's necessary or not. I want to remind everybody that the default PRM is only kicks in to the extent that the LRAs do not actually themselves take action on setting their requirements. So it is within the LRAs. They're the first line of attack, if you wish, on meeting those requirements. And then lastly, in terms of reaching out to the other LRAs, as I said, the PUC has just started their process, and we went in and made sure we had that out there, and we'll take that back and talk about what other outreach to other LRAs may be necessary, and we'll take that back with the team.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you very much.
Great. Any other questions, Janelle?
Actually, one did just come in. Do you want to go to that one? Okay. Caller, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Carrie Bentley with the Western Power Trading Forum. Anna, just following up on that, does that mean that CAISO won't backstop to the 20% then?
No, like we indicated this is Anna again, like we indicated in our filing, our goal is to ensure the RA program that the changes that we're proposing are made through the RA program. And we do have mechanisms under our current tariffs that if the requirements are not met, that we have the authority to backstop if necessary. We will backstop. We haven't explored fully how all of these things will come into play. And as indicated in the emergency proceeding, it's done in a very expedited process. So, yes, we do hope that, that this takes place through the RA program so that we can backstop under that, the authority that we have.
Okay, thank you.
And there are no further questions in the verbal queue.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate the questions today. Again, just a reminder, we encourage you to visit the Summer Readiness page on a regular basis. You can find that from the ISO homepage, the website homepage. And then also when we schedule the next Summer Readiness update call, we will send a market notice to provide you with the details for that call. So thank you again for joining us. Greatly appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using Event Services. You may now disconnect.